What's up, everybody? Going down this weekend, we got UFC 328, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. And listen, dude, we got to give the UFC their credit because, in my opinion, this is by far, at least on paper, pulling an Anthony Smith on paper, this is easily the most stacked card of the entire year so far. And what I love about this card is not only do we have two outstanding title fights, but we have amazing, intriguing matchups all up and down the card. Like, I am literally looking forward to every single fight on this card. I can't really remember the last time that I have said that from the first fight of the night to the main event, every single fight is very intriguing, and I can see these fights going a number of ways, so I am very excited to break this one down. And I mean, the main event, it just doesn't get much better. We got Sean Strickland, Khamzat, bad blood coming into this. The striking of Sean, he thinks that he has the answers and has the style to be able to deal with Khamzat. And we know how Chimaev is, an absolute wrecking ball, running through everybody, coming off of a very dominant win over DDP. I cannot wait to see if Khamzat can just ragdoll Sean around or if Sean could be the kryptonite for Khamzat in the main event. And the co-main event just might be my favorite stylistic matchup on the entire card. And listen, man, it is very rare that we get two dudes in the absolute young primes of their careers fighting for a title. And listen, I've been saying the flyweight division, I think, is the best division in the entire UFC right now. It's on fire. We have amazing strikers, amazing grapplers, guys that can do it all. And we know in the flyweight division, these dudes are Energizer bunnies. They got tons of energy, tons of output, and we got the boxing and the striking of Joshua Van. His takedown defenses look pretty good, but we have not seen him in there against a guy like Tatsuro Taira, who has been putting it together, has been running through dudes, showing very, very high-level grappling for the flyweight division, and I cannot wait to see how this one plays out. And then Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I think Volkov, one of my favorite heavyweights of all time, been one of the best heavyweights in the UFC for a while now, should be on a nice long win streak right now. I thought that he beat Cyril Gane. I thought that was one of the worst robberies that we've seen in a while. And then Waldo Cortes-Acosta, right? He's been streaking outside of this loss to Sergey Pavlovich. He's been on a roll recently, knocking guys out, putting some beautiful boxing on display, getting a big opportunity here, because if you can get through Volkov, I think Waldo will be knocking on the door to fight for the title. And then Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley, the high-level grappling of Sean Brady looking to bounce back after getting absolutely destroyed by Michael Morales, and Buckley looking to bounce back after almost a year ago getting ragdolled around by the OG, the legend of the game, Kamaru Usman. But up until that point, Buckley was looking really, really good since moving down to welterweight. I mean, look at these matchups, man. An OG throwback. I feel like I'm heading back to the early teens of the 2000s, man. We got Bob Green versus Jeremy Stevens, an OG type of fight. I love this fight, man. Just a throwback. Makes me kind of reminisce on old times. Two dudes that no game plan. We're just going to go in here and absolutely throw down and scrap it out. Might be the fight of the night on a stacked card here. And then Ateba Gautier on the card, getting another softball matchup. Joel Alvarez versus Yaroslov Amosov. This might be the most underrated fight on the card. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily underrated anymore because I think a lot of people are looking forward to this, but just amazing. I could go on and on, man. In case you can't tell, I'm excited. Dawson, Rebecki, Jim Miller, Jared Gordon. I mean, look at these fights. Just amazing matchups, man. So without further ado, let's not goof around anymore, man, and rock and roll right into this thing. We got our first fight of the night. We got Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. Very interesting style clash here. We got Clayton Carpenter, a guy that's really, really been showing a nice grappling skill set. Excellent jiu-jitsu, solid wrestling, a little bit, I don't want to say bankrupt on the feet because I do think his striking is decent, but he's not a better striker than Jose Ochoa. Now, having said that, we've seen throughout Carpenter's career that if he can get you thinking about the takedown, some things can open up on the feet, but really it goes back to when he was able to control and dominate Edgar Chairez on DWCS, and I think that Chairez is a very good fighter. And we've seen that Clayton Carpenter, if he can get to your back, it's almost a wrap that he's going to lock in a rear naked choke. And there's a little bit of history here, right? Lucas Rocha, some familiarity with, Ochoa and Rocha in the camps. And so it's almost like, well, maybe Ochoa is going to have a little bit of an inside scoop on what to expect coming into this Clayton Carpenter fight. And Carpenter's dropped 2 in a row, right? Losing to Taira Rebecki, most recently getting subbed by Jafel Filio, who just completely shit the bed recently against Cody Djorden. So it's like, really, where do we rate Clayton Carpenter? I think he's a good grappler. I think his striking is okay, but if this fight stays on the feet, I think that Jose Ochoa is just going to absolutely tear him up. And training over at Shoot the Box, we see that in his style. Very aggressive, forward pressure, explosive striker on the feet. And since coming into the UFC, right, did lose to Lonnie Kavanaugh, who we're seeing is not only one of the best flyweights, in my opinion, but easily one of the best strikers in the stacked flyweight division. Knocked out Cody Djorden, which is, I mean, considering what Djorden just did to Filio, I mean, that's a pretty good win, right? And most recently losing to a Amabayev, who's a really good wrestler. So maybe some comparisons, Carpenter and Amabayev, but I think Carpenter is more of a dangerous jiu-jitsu threat than an Amabayev. But I do believe that Asu's overall wrestling is better than Clayton Carpenter. So how do I see this fight playing out? 2 great camps, by the way. MMA Lab, Shoot the Box. Very intrigued by this matchup. Essentially a striker versus grappler. If Clayton Carpenter can take down Ochoa and kind of put him in the blender, right? Take him down, rinse and repeat, back him up along the octagon side, get his hands locked, drag him down to the mat, be able to get to his back, be able to kind of work that jiu-jitsu flow, style of game. I think that Carpenter can not only control Ochoa and win a decision, but I think that there's a chance he could find a way to get to the back and get him out of here with some sort of submission. But I rate Jose Ochoa higher than I do Clayton Carpenter, and a lot of that has to do with Ochoa has a fundamentally sound jiu-jitsu game. He's got a very good guard, good off of his back, good in all areas when it comes to the grappling, and I don't think that he's just going to accept being on bottom under Clayton Carpenter in this fight, and I think that Ochoa is going to pounce on Carpenter in this fight and put him on his heels, and at some point in the middle of about the second round, I think he's going to be able to land a left hand on Clayton Carpenter, sit him down, be able to follow up with some ground and pound and put him away. This is a very interesting fight because I could see it going either way, right? It's basically if Carpenter can get the fight into his world, I think he has the advantage. But if he can't get it into his world, I think Ochoa has a huge advantage on the feet. And I feel like the grappling gap is a little bit closer than what the striking is on the feet. I feel like Jose is much better on the feet. His timing is good. He throws good kicks, mixes up his shots really well. I think he's much better than Carpenter on the feet. And we've seen that Carpenter's pretty durable, tough guy to deal with. He can take a shot. And he's not just going to, get hit with a shot and kind of shy away and shoot these blank, naked takedowns. So I think that this is a good fight, but I am going to side with Jose Ochoa. I think he's faster, more dangerous, and has more ways to win this fight. And I think that his ground game, he can also throw up some submissions to make Carpenter a little bit cautious in terms of entertaining the ground game. So I'm going to go with Ochoa. I think if it gets stuck on the feet, it's his fight all day long, and I think he can scramble well enough to get out of some of these bad positions that Carpenter might be able to get him in. I'm going Ochoa. I think he'll be prepared for what Carpenter brings to the table. I think the striking will clearly be the difference here, and I think he knocks out Carpenter in round 2. If not, he'll win a damage-based decision, maybe 29 to 28, but I expect Clay to have some early success. This is a great fight to open up the card. Next, we got Baisangur Susurkaev versus Djorden Santos. Now, those of you that know, I got some bias in the game here because Mr. Sus, very good friend of mine, if you know, you know, and I'm been critical of Mr. Sus because this dude has all of the skills in the world. And I know people are out there saying, oh, he's overrated, and just because he trains with Khamzat, he's receiving all this glaze. This dude is the full package, man. His striking is very high level. His timing is excellent. His precision, his accuracy, his shot selection, and his ground game is very, very good as well. His problem is he's 25 years of age and he's being hard-headed in there. He's messing around way too much and he's bullshitting around, man. Big brother, big bullshit, right? That's what we got from Mr. Sus. Baisangur is messing around way too much in the octagon. And I like the antics. I like the showboating, marketing yourself. I get it all. But early on, it's important that you handle business. And a lot of these fights, like he should be getting Eric Moicanico out of there in the first round. Like I know Moicanico just got a really good win over, who was it, most recently on the last Apex card. He was able to get the job done over Rodolfo Vieira. That was a great performance. But Moicanico, man, like he's not that good. I'm sorry. And Baisangur, he was just messing around, not showing him any respect. The Eric Nolan fight, Nolan showed up, right? This was the debut. It was just short notice. So there's some different factors here, but we got to see the ground game, and Nolan looked good on the feet, to be fair. I think Eric Nolan's a little bit underrated. So listen, Mr. Seuss, all the hype coming off the DWCS, got the brutal knockout. Dana White was hyping him up. And whenever they throw you on the press conference for 319 and throw you on the card at the last minute and Dana's glazing you and you got all this hype, start to drink a little bit of your own Kool-Aid, man. Start to be sipping on it. And I think that that's what's been going on by Baisangur, Susurkaev. Hopefully his team has reeled him in. They're saying, listen, man, stop fooling around. You can have some fun in there, smile and do all that, but we need to handle business. And listen, I know Djorden Santos, I don't rate him that highly. And I know that it says he's 28. I need to see a birth certificate because this dude looks like he's about 50 to me. He looks like he's about 50. But the bottom line with Santos, I don't think he's that skilled, but he is tough as hell. This dude, I don't think he's ever been finished. 11-2, right? We saw him lose to Ozzy Diaz, which I picked Ozzy Diaz in this fight. And losing to Ozzy Diaz is not a good look, by the way. Most recently beating Danny Barlow, which I think was a little bit of an upset victory, but we're seeing that Barlow ended up being a little bit disappointing. Got the crazy decision win on DWCS, and when I say crazy, it was crazy high output. It was kind of a fun, fun-filled fight, but I don't know, man. Susurkaev is literally better than Santos at everything. He's a better boxer. He's a better kickboxer, better footwork, better movement, better grappler. He is better in all aspects of MMA. It's just a matter of, is he going to fool around and make this a fight? Because if he does, then Santos can find a way to survive and this thing will go to a decision. But if Mr. Seuss comes in here and takes it seriously, he is going to land a nasty right hand. He's going to batter the front kicks to the midsection of Santos, stop the forward momentum. And even though Santos does have a little bit of power, not the most dangerous guy in the world, Baisangur, to me, listen, I know it sounds a little bit of glaze, brother, but seriously, this guy's good. And people are saying that the real Hunter is just overrated, and I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of it is he's messing around and he's being a stubborn young dude in there. And that's the reality. So if he doesn't fool around too much, I think he goes in here and handles business and ends up knocking out Djorden Santos in the second round, or maybe even submits him, because Susurkaev, very well-rounded, getting grappling rounds in all the time with Khamzat Chimaev. Nobody's grappling is going to scare him in this weight class outside of Khamzat, which obviously they're not going to fight each other. Baisangur, his striking is very good. He's fast, he's explosive, and the front kicks up the middle. I think that will stop the forward momentum of Santos. He'll beat up the lead leg, walk him into a right hand, and be able to find a way to get him out of there. If not, it'll be a masterclass 30-27 where he just picks Santos apart. But if Susurkaev messes around, man, Santos is a guy that can kind of zombie his way. Walk forward, throw some volume out there, land some shots, try to mix in some takedowns, which I don't think we'll have any success with. I just think literally Susurkaev is better everywhere. This is more of a showcase fight to get him some reps in the UFC before they really start kind of moving him up the middleweight division. I think Mr. Seuss gets it done really easily in this fight. Next, we got a really interesting one. We got Pat Sabatini versus William Gomis. Now, Will.i.am is training over at the MMA Factory, and his head coach, Nicholas Ott, is not only one of my favorite coaches in the game, but I think that he is unbelievably underrated, right? Coaches Benoit Saint-Denis, Nasruddin Imavov, and William Gomis, and several other fighters. And what we know about William Gomis is his striking is very technical. He's got he's 6 feet tall, 73-inch reach. He's going to have the height and reach advantage in this fight, which is going to be very important because I have no doubt in my mind that he is a way better striker than Pat, and it's not even close. And I think he's the better overall fighter than Pat Sabatini. When you talk about Sabatini, this is a guy that is a true grappling specialist that has pretty solid wrestling, and his jiu-jitsu skills are incredibly high level, man. This dude, not only does he do grappling competitions, but he wins a lot of them. He is very, very, very good. And what we've seen in MMA, right, was able to submit Lucas Almeida. That's pretty impressive, right? Diego Lopez was able to get him out of there, but we know, that's Diego Lopez, one of the best in the world. Submitted JSP, right? That was a good win. Beat Joe Anderson Brito by decision, was able to dominate him on the ground, which was very impressive. And then most recently was able to beat Chepe Mariscal, who's a dog, a workhorse, a guy that constantly scrambles and, brings a little bit of a tough skill set to the table. And Sabatini, he got battered a little bit in the fight, but he controlled the fight. And this to me is plain and simple. Do I think that Will.i.am can stop the Pat Sabatini grappling onslaught? I don't think he's going to be able to stop it. But I do think that William does have a little bit of a decent enough anti-grappling game where he can utilize lateral movement, utilize footwork, rip kicks up the middle, those front kicks to the midsection, batter the lead leg of Sabatini. And I understand, listen, who's William Gomis finish, man? I can hear it now, right? Split decision win over Francis Marshall. The finish over Giannis, which, a kick to the body, and people were saying it was a low blow. It was kind of a weird situation there. And then Joe Anderson Brito split decision. People were crying robbery, and I know, Sabatini beat Brito, and then lost to Hyder Emil by split decision. the shots that William is landing in a lot of these fights, I don't think Pat Sabatini is eating those shots. So you could say that Gomis isn't this crazy finisher, but I don't think Pat Sabatini is durable whatsoever. I don't think that he's like, yeah, he's a fighter, but I think he's more of like a grappling-based guy that is in MMA, to where if you can put it on him with the striking, this guy will melt like the Wicked Witch of the West when you throw the water on her, man. You throw the water on Pat Sabatini, and I think he will fold. And that's what we've seen in his fights, and I know he's fought good competition, and believe me, Sabatini has fought two guys that I know of. One was in the UFC in Tucker Lutz, the other one on the regional scene in Jesse Stern. Those guys are very good grapplers, and Pat Sabatini dominated them on the deck. So if he gets Gomis into his world, I think that he will dominate him, control him, and possibly find a submission. But something's telling me that Nicholas Ott and team are going to have Will.i.am Gomis very prepared for this fight. And I like the striking of Gomis. I think people are sleeping on him in this fight, man. And maybe this ends up just being a terrible pick. But I'm going to say later on in this fight, Pat Sabatini will have early success. He won't be able to submit Gomis. He will start to slow down, and that's where we will see Will.i.am start ripping the kicks to the body, start attacking the lead leg, sniping him down the pipe with good, clean, straight shots. And we have seen that if you can stop what Sabatini does well, and you can put hands on him, this guy will melt. He will go away, and I think that that's what we see in this fight. Of course, Sabatini, it's a styles matchup. Do you think that he can just out-grapple Gomis? Sure, very possible. But I think that Gomis is better than what people are giving him credit for, and they're saying robbery, this, that, whatever. You could say split decisions, doesn't have power, all this you want. I don't think Sabatini's durable whatsoever, and these shots that were being landed on a guy like Hyder Emil in some of these fights, I don't think Sabatini is eating those shots. I think the precision, the footwork, the educated striking of William Gomis, and the game plan that head coach Nicholas Ott will have for him coming into this fight, I think will pay it off. I think he pulls off the upset here and gets the job done over Pat Sabatini. But if he doesn't have an answer for the grappling, he'll get dominated 30-27 to maybe even submitted by Pat, because Pat is that good on the ground. I just think Gomis is way better on the feet. We've seen some good anti-grappling. We saw it in the Brito fight. Styles make fights. I think Gomis matches up decently in this matchup. His striking is clean. Footwork is good. Has no problem moving forward, fighting on the back foot, very dynamic. I think he can get it done and surprise some people against Pat Sabatini. I'll roll the dice here. Next, we got Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. I'm just going to be honest. I have no idea. I don't trust either of these guys, and I'm not high on either of these guys. At one point, I was kind of high on Roman Kopylov. I've kind of, pulled back the reins on the hype a little bit with Roman. And Marco Tulio, a guy that I thought was pretty good. And not just because you lose, to CLD. Like, I'm not really going to fault him too much for that, but it was the way that he lost. Like, he got dominated by CLD, man. Like, and I know that CLD's really good, but I just feel like it was a little bit of a bad look how dominant CLD was against him. And I know CLD's very explosive, very fast, but when you look at Kopylov, good southpaw striker, good southpaw striker, good kicks to the body, rips him upstairs, pretty good footwork. Not the best boxing, which I think is something to note in this fight. But what we've seen from Kopylov, right, got subbed and dominated by Fluffy, but that's Fluffy. Close one with Cesar Almeida, who's a good kickboxer. Was able to knock out Chris Curtis at the buzzer. Coming off two losses, Paulo Costa, RoboCop. Both of those guys better than Marco Tulio. But again, I think that this is one of those things where styles make fights. If Marco Tulio sits at kicking range and doesn't mix this up, Roman Kopylov will outscore him, outkick him, outstrike him, and win a very slow-paced decision, because that's where Kopylov fights his best, is having a slow-paced fight. You go, I go. You go, I go. You go, I go. Tit-for-tat battle. That's what Roman Kopylov loves. I don't think Marco Tulio is going to play that game. Marco Tulio has the frame to be able to match Kopylov. He's also 6 foot. Kopylov has a half-inch reach advantage, so it basically cancels out here. And I think the X factor in this fight is Tulio is a better grappler than Kopylov. And I think he can mix it up. I know that Roman historically, his takedown defense has been okay. We've seen him taken down. He normally can stay safe and work back to his feet. But I feel like Tulio can win on the deck. And I think on the feet, his hands could potentially be a little bit better than Roman Kopylov. I don't think he's a better kicker than Kopylov, but it's an open stance battle. Kopylov's a southpaw, Tulio's the orthodox, so those kicks to the body are going to be available. And if I'm Tulio, I'm looking at what Costa did. And I'm not saying Tulio is as good as Costa. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when Kopylov moves into range, sting him with the straight right hand down the middle. When Kopylov moves into range, kick him to the body. Attack the inside of the leg. And then also mix in some takedowns. And I think as long as Tulio does that, I think that he should be able to edge this one out and win this fight 29-28. But if he sits at kicking range and just allows Kopylov to coast, Roman will outscore him and beat him up on the feet. And we've seen from Tulio, man, right? Got the win on the DWCS the second time, won the first time. I think that was against Belgaroy. Came back, I believe, got the finish, right? Knocked out Ior Potieria, knocked out Sean Gore, did lose to CLD, but we're seeing just how good CLD is. And I think CLD at this point, the CLD that we're seeing, I think he beats Roman Kopylov. So I don't want to hang my hat too much on Tulio losing that fight. These guys, it's not like they're losing to bad competition. They're losing to some of the best guys in the world. But I'm going to side with Tulio. I think he's got the grappling advantage. I think his hands are a little bit sharper. Kopylov has the kicking advantage. Roman needs the fight to be pretty, while I think Tulio can fight pretty, but also make it dirty. For those reasons, I'm going to pick Marco Tulio to get this one done in a close 29-28 decision victory over Kopylov. And if Tulio can finish Roman, that'd be impressive. That'd be very impressive. He's got power. He's got knockout power. Can mix things up very well. Kopylov throws a lot of kicks. You could catch one, take him down. You know, Kopylov could stick and move, turn it into a slow-paced fight. And we've seen Kopylov in a lot of these fights, man. I don't know what's been going on. Low output, right? You can tag him early with a shot, get some respect from him, and he just kind of shuts down and becomes very one-dimensional, very kind of slow-paced, and gets kind of in this coasting mode to where you can easily out-volume him and outwork him. So I think if Tulio fights smart, his gas tank looks good, comes in, mixes it up, I think he will do that and get this one done in a close one, 29-28. Give me Marco Tulio here. Next, we got Jim Miller versus Jared Gordon. A little bit of an old head matchup here. We got the 42-year-old OG of the game, the old head A10 Jim Miller at 42, almost 43 years of age versus the almost 38-year-old Jared Gordon. Jim Miller, I mean, this dude has been around for forever, man. I literally, since I think I was a little kid, since I've been in diapers, man, I've been watching Jim Miller fight in the UFC. And you know, the amount of fights that this guy has had, the amount of impressive performances that we've seen, you know, got that, you know, little kind of like funny looking physique, right? I know some people out there like to say frog-like, and I agree with that. You know, got a little bit of the frog legs, that little frogman frame. And listen, man, Joe Rogan loves to talk about the calf kicks. Jim Miller, one of the guys hopping on the calf kicks. If you remember back in the day, I think it was the Poirier fight, right? Where Dustin DP was talking about, you know, the calf kicks of Jim Miller. And still to this day, Jim Miller still got one of the best calf kicks in the game. Now, the interesting thing here is we will see Jim Miller kind of bob and weave on the outside, southpaw. Jared Gordon, an orthodox opponent. We will see him shift and move around, but that calf kick, Jim Miller still finds a way to land it on just about everybody. And we saw, I mean, Jim Miller, even at this age, has been finding a way to beat guys, right? Jesse Butler was able to get him out of there, was able to beat Gabriel Benitez, lost to King Green to where he was able to hurt Bob Green in that fight a little bit, but really it was the output of Green that got it done. Submitted Damon Jackson, which is pretty impressive, and is coming off of a loss to Chase Hooper and hasn't aged that great. I know Hooper's it's kind of a styles thing there where Hooper's a good grappler. This just comes down to the fact, can Jim Gordon, if Jim Miller can outstrike Jared Gordon using the calf kick, sticking and moving, letting some of his boxing combos and stay safe. And I feel like in this fight, if he can do that while mixing in the takedowns, Jim can find a way to get this thing done because his grappling is really good. He's got a nasty guillotine, really solid jiu-jitsu skills, and I think that he's probably the better grappler in this fight and the better kicker. But one of the problems I have with Jim in this fight is Jared Gordon has looked really good, man. I think he's looked really, really good, right? Knocked out Mark Madsen. This fight against Nasrat Haqparast was a close one. Thiago Moises was able to knock him out, which was very impressive, most recently against Rafa Garcia. And we're seeing how good Garcia has looked. And I think Gordon got hit by a car or something before this fight, so he was clearly compromised coming in. And the fight against Paddy Pimblett, I thought Jared Gordon won. So on the feet, the better boxer, Jared Gordon. He's got power, very good combinations. He rips to the body well, switches, kind of shifts and moves forward. I think his takedown defense will be good enough. And I think when Jim Miller tries to throw those calf kicks, that's where Gordon can step in and counter with the hands to be able to get this one done. So I'm going to say that Jared Gordon is able to outstrike Jim Miller and get this one done. I'll say 30-27. I think that there'll be competitive rounds. I don't know that Gordon just runs away with it. I think Miller will have some moments with the leg kicks. Maybe he's able to take down Jared, control him a little bit, threaten with a submission here or there. But I think it's going to be pretty clear that Jared's going to be just a step ahead. The boxing's going to be a little bit slicker, ripping the combos to the body, bringing the shots around the guard. Even though Jim is, almost 43, still look pretty good. but we have seen the speed slow down. We've seen that he's a little bit more hittable, a little bit more of a sitting duck, and I think Djorden can take advantage of that in this fight. Utilize footwork, use the boxing, stuff the takedowns, and be able to keep the fight on the feet and outscore Jim Miller. Maybe he KOs him. That'd be very impressive to do. Wouldn't surprise me, given Jim's a little bit older now. And if Jim wins, I think he needs to mix in the takedowns. I know the calf kicks are good. Does have some sneaky power in his hands as well. But I feel like if he mixes in the takedowns, that would be a smart route because I think that his submission game is legit and he could find a way to get Djorden out of there. But I'm going to say Gordon stops the takedowns, outboxes him on the feet, and gets this one done. Pretty clean sweep across the cards. In a competitive one, but one that Gordon clearly wins. I like both of these guys. Man. A little old head matchup for us. Next, we got Grant Dawson versus Mateusz Rebecki. This is an interesting one because Grant Dawson is one of these guys that is a really high-level grappler. He's got solid wrestling, excellent submission skills, flows really well, transitions really well. His striking is okay, but he's very hittable. And he's also one of those guys that if you hit him with a clean shot, he'll melt. And he's got no chin. I mean, Grant Dawson is one of the chinniest fighters, I think, in all of the UFC. Now, having said that, the guys that he's getting knocked out by, King Green, Bob Green, not the greatest look, but we've seen Greens look really good. He just knocked out Zoe Huber, right? Getting knocked out by Manuel Torres, we predicted that, right? Because Manuel Torres is a monster. He's huge, right, for the weight class. And we've seen, right, dominated Diego Ferreira on the ground, was able to stop Rafa Garcia, which was very, very impressive, beating Joel Selecki. And we've seen his control is outstanding. His control is very, very good, and he can transition very well to where if he could get the fight to the floor, hide the takedowns behind some of the striking, Rebecki over swings, which we see him do a lot, get to the back, circle around, take him down. I could see Dawson winning a control-based decision or finding a way to submit Rebecki and get him out of there. But one of the issues I have for Dawson in this fight is not only is he very hittable and can't take a shot very well, but Rebecki, listen, man, I know that this guy is hittable. He's been in some wars. We don't see the greatest of fight IQ. He's got a solid submission game. We saw that against Roosevelt Roberts, and I know that not as good as Grant Dawson. I understand that, right? Lost to Diego Ferreira to where he got finished later in the fight. We saw what Dawson was able to do to him. But again, styles make fights. One of the greatest fights, I think, that we've seen in a while, right? Mikdabek Orlabai, who's, from the Ice Age, right? He's an absolute savage. Look what he's been doing at welterweight. Found his weight class. He's got power, really well-rounded. I think he's a better fighter than Grant Dawson and more dangerous, especially when it comes to the striking. And we saw Rebecki go to war with him, right? Crazy back and forth with Chris Duncan. Most recently losing to Ludovic Klein, but Klein's a good striker, and I think that there's a good chance that Klein could knock out Grant Dawson. So I think in this fight, if you think that Grant Dawson's going to win, it's by him getting to the takedowns, getting to the back of Rebecki, controlling him, flowing, being able to either submit him or win a control-based decision. But if that doesn't happen, I think Rebecki's better on the feet. He's more durable. He's got the power. He's the better striker. And I think that he's got that meatball style of build to where, he's a little bit shorter. Yeah, Dawson has the reach advantage, but Dawson's striking, it's okay. Like, it's technical, but doesn't have a ton of sting. And I know that Rebecki is very hittable, but I don't know that Dawson is going to be able to keep Mateusz off of him. And if Rebecki's able to walk him down early, like I think he will be able to do, we have seen that if you can land a good shot on Dawson and put it on him right away and not let him kind of get a feel for the fight, you can find a way to jump on him, pounce on him, and get him out of there early. And I'm going to say that that's what happens. I think that Mateusz Rebecki is going to come out like a bat out of hell, put Dawson on the back foot, walk him down, be a little bit more calculated with the shots, because if he overswings, that's going to allow Dawson to dip underneath, get to the hips, be able to find a way to take him down, and then that would not be good for Rebecki. But I do rate Rebecki's ground game. I think his ground game is solid. We've seen him taken down. We've seen him have some issues. But his gas tank, despite when he gets tired, he fights through the fatigue. He's got the power. Got the power times two, I guess. He's got the power. He's got the striking. And I think his ground game is decent enough to be able to deal with what Grant Dawson brings to the table, and I just don't trust the durability of Grant Dawson. I can see Grant getting it done. I think he's the smarter fighter, got the better fight IQ. Rebecki, I could see him overswinging, putting himself in bad positions to where it's like, oh man, he's just going to end up losing the fight. He's getting controlled, or he could get subbed. But Rebecki, we've seen his ground game's pretty good. On the feet, I think he's better. He's got more power, more durable. I think he knocks out Grant Dawson. I think that this is one of those matchups where styles make fights. I think this is a good one for Rebecki, a little bit of a tough one for Grant Dawson. Give me Rebecki by round one knockout. Next, we got Joe Alvarez versus Yaroslov Amosov. This is one of my favorite fights on the card, and one that, again, I don't know, man. I don't know, because overall I think that Joel Alvarez is the better fighter, but we've seen throughout his career where he runs into problems is the takedown defense, specifically against guys that can really wrestle. Now, granted, that was 4 years ago, and that's Arman Tsarukyan, who's, I think, one of the best overall grapplers in the UFC. So people are, I think, are going to be very quick to say, well, look what Arman did. So Amosov can just do the same thing. I mean, I've seen that Amosov, obviously, I've watched a lot of his career, PFL, well, not really PFL, but Bellator mainly, right? Now, it was over, and I think, no, it was all Bellator. He didn't even fight in the PFL. Interesting. So either way, watched them all in Bellator. Very, very good. Fought Logan Storley, was able to out-grapple him in moments, which is very impressive because Logan Storley's a good grappler. This loss to Jason Jackson, right? Was able to control Douglas Lima, which is a good win because back at the time, Lima's got a nasty calf kick, right? Jason Jackson, good striker, but again, getting knocked out by him, I feel like Joe Alvarez is better than him, right? Submitting Curtis Millender, a little bit older in the career. I picked him to beat Neil Magny by sub. He was able to get it done. This just comes down to me for the fact of, will Amosov get to the wrestling, be able to take down Alvarez, control him, and just keep the fight there? And if he does that, he's going to win the fight. Maybe he could submit him. That'd be very impressive, but I think he would win a decision if that happens. I've been saying that I think Joe Alvarez is one of the dark horses, right? He was at lightweight, which I didn't love that weight class for him because he's 6'3", 77-inch reach. I mean, he was a massive lightweight, and he's still big at welterweight. He's a big guy, man. He's got a crazy long frame. And his skill set reminds me a lot of Charles Oliveira. Now, I'm not saying he's Charles, but I'm saying his style reminds me of DuBronx, where Joe Alvarez doesn't care, man. He will just walk you down with reckless abandonment, pressure the heck out of you, put the power on you. He's got great knees, great kicks, solid striking with the hands, with the boxing, mixes things up really well. Will attack the lead leg, checks kicks very well. Will throw that knee right up the middle, which I think could be a valuable weapon here. He's active off of his back. He's got good elbows. He can cut you open. Joe Alvarez is literally a butcher, man. Like, he is a haunted house type of fighter to where he's just scary. Everywhere the fight goes, he is unbelievably dangerous. Will knock you out on the feet. His submission game is legit, and that's what reminds me of Oliveira. You're just in danger at all aspects against Joe Alvarez, and if he stings you on the feet, you're going to get subbed. So Amosov cannot get stung on the feet, and if he does take down Joe Alvarez and he's not able to posture up and land great ground and pound, like, I don't think Amosov's ground and pound is, like, great. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's great. I think his control's pretty good. He can flow very well. We've seen the videos, him grappling with Khamzat. I understand all of that. But for me, Joe Alvarez, I just think is simply the better fighter. I know that Amosov, to me, it's just wrestling is better, and we've seen Alvarez struggle with good wrestlers. So maybe Amosov can control him, find a way to get him out of there, or just win a decision. Man, I'm going to pick Joe Alvarez. I'm going to pick Joe Alvarez to get this one done. And I've went back and forth on this fight, and I think that he's going to find a way. If Jason Jackson, who I think is a good striker, if he can find a way to get you out of there, I think Joe Alvarez can find a way to get you out of there, man. And I know that that's kind of crazy because Amosov, 29-1, he's been incredible. He's an amazing fighter, and I'm a fan of Amosov. I mean, I really like watching the guy fight, and I do think that he's special, and he's 32 years of age, coming over, like, in his prime. It's not like an older Bellator/PFL guy that's coming over and, they're kind of over the hill here. Like, he's in his prime. And you saw what he was able to do against Neil Magny. Now, to be fair, we've seen guys like Gilbert Burns dominate Neil Magny on the ground. So, impressive, but I think Joe Alvarez, a guy that's 33, very, very dangerous. He's got nasty striking. He will pressure you. He will not be afraid of the wrestling of Amosov. And if he's on his back, he's got a good guard. He can move. He can, get his butterfly hooks in, flip, sweep, reverse the position, threaten you with arm bars, triangles from bottom, and on the feet, he's very, very dangerous. And I know that Yaroslav's striking is technical. It's not bad. But a lot of his wins, if he's not submitting you, he's just controlling you and finding a way to win a decision. And I think that Alvarez, even if he's taken down, he's going to be active off of his back, looking for ways to get up, throwing elbows. And I think on the feet, he's got the power. He's got speed. I know his head movement isn't very good, which he's got that tall man defense, which does worry me. Sub Mark Jacasey, finished Elvis Brenner, knocked out Jakar Close, which was impressive. And most recently, I mean, this should have been a KO over Vicente Luque. Dominated Vicente Luque. And I know, look how Luque just looked. I know he moved up to middleweight, but look how he looked against Gastelum. So I think Joe Alvarez is for real, man. He's fought really good opposition. He's in the prime of his career, as is Amosov. I think Alvarez is better on the feet, dangerous everywhere. And I've been just a big fan of Alvarez's style. Like both of these guys, I think they're both great, but I'm going to side with Alvarez. He's got that Oliveira-like effect to where if he stings you on the feet, which he can, and he's got a nasty sub game, he's dangerous everywhere. He's a proven finisher. I think he gets this one done It's going to be close, and he's going to find a way to put it on Amosov and get the job done, or he'll win a damage-based decision, or Amosov will just control him with the wrestling and find a way to get it done. Next, we have Ateba Gautier versus Ozzy Diaz. This doesn't really require any breakdown. Anything less than a first-round knockout for Ateba Gautier is completely unacceptable in this fight. It's just not acceptable. And people want to rip on guys like O'Malley and, all these fighters that they get almost like this UFC treatment where it's like we feed you these layups. I can't remember a fighter that has received more softball matchups than Ateba Gautier. All right, so we could stop with all the games. And I understand that he's 24 years of age. And listen, I like Ateba. I'm a fan of this guy. He reminds me a lot of, Francis Ngannou, just, at middleweight instead of heavyweight. He's got the frame, 6'4", 81-inch reach, crazy power. And what I like about Gautier is when people see him, they're like, wow, this dude, he's built like a bodybuilder. He's massive and he's strong. And, but the thing is, he's a very smart fighter. He's very patient. He picks his shots well. He's just not some, guy that's walking forward and is big and strong and just throwing these crazy shots, which that's part of it. But he is very technical, picks his shots very well. But this is a guy, look at these softball matchups. Got the impressive win on DWCS. Okay, Jose Medina, that guy's not UFC level. Robert Valentin, I know he just won and I picked him to win that fight, but Valentin's not really UFC level. Tristan Vines, and I think that this was, a last-minute replacement, so okay. And then most recently, Andre Puliev, who put on a good performance, was, almost knocked out a couple times, was able to battle back into the fight, but he had a lot of success later in the fight. So, Ajiba's received a lot of softball matchups. Not his fault. UFC is doing, I guess, the right thing by slowly building him up. So I'm just being a little critical because people kind of pick and choose when to criticize the UFC for doing that. But Ajiba's received that kind of layup-like treatment. But I do agree with it because especially in the Puliev fight, you saw, okay, if he can't get somebody out of there, he slows down, he's low output. Let's pull back the reins a little bit, feed him a couple more, kind of cans per se. And I know that Diaz, look, he's 10-3, but knocked out by Joe Pyfer on DWCS. Again, Joe Pyfer's a heavy hitter. We saw him get some wins on LFA. Lost to Zhang Minyang, who's an absolute monster, and that's at 205. Beat Djorden Santos. We picked him in this fight to get it done, pull off the upset. Diaz is, if he doesn't get knocked out, he's a guy that can move forward, put some volume on there, and he will be busier than Gautier if he can't get him out of there. But Diaz is not the most durable guy, especially against dudes that have power. In my opinion, Gautier needs to knock out Ozzy Diaz in this fight. Round 1 or 2, to me, is the only acceptable thing. I think you should put it on him and get him out of there immediately in round 1. This shouldn't be a fight. It should be an easy layup win for Ateba Gautier. And then after this, we need to start giving him some comparable competition. This is literally Ozzy Diaz being thrown in here just to get Gautier more reps and put him in a showcase spot on a big card. Like Diaz, he's a good fighter, but I've never thought that he's really UFC level, and Gautier, I think, is a top contender in the middleweight division at some point. Just needs to be built up a little bit more. He's dangerous, powerful, picks his shots well, good takedown defense. He's better than Diaz at just about everything and way more dangerous. He'll knock him out in the very first round. Next, we got Bob Green versus Jeremy Stephens. This is an OG fight, man. Opening up the main card, I believe, right? This is a great fight. And feels like we're back in the teens, the 2000s again, right? And, you got Bob Green, who's been in the UFC the whole time, 39, almost 40, where Jeremy Stephens, I was saying for a while, I've been calling Jeremy Stephens when he was, on his long run in the UFC, I was saying this guy's like the Freddy Krueger of MMA. Jeremy Stephens is a guy that he'll win one, he'll lose one, he'll win one, he'll lose one. He's got one of the most impressive highlight reels ever, I think, in terms of UFC. He's got one of the most impressive, actually, overall MMA highlights. He's got nasty power in his hands, solid grappling, a nasty calf kick, and he swings for the bleachers. And every time that Jeremy Stephens fights, it's entertaining. And he's been in BKFC a lot, right? Most recently, he did fight, Mason Jones, and we've seen how good Mason Jones is. Was able to land some shots, and then Jones mixed in the takedowns and was able to get it done. We saw him in PFL losing fights, which is not particularly a great look. Was able to get it done over Price. Did lose to Clay Collard, who's a good boxer. His last UFC win, it's been forever, man. It's been like over 5 years ago. So, and then obviously against Gamrot, one of the, submission victim to Gamrot. And the bottom line is Jeremy Stephens is 39, almost 40. He's been in BKFC. He looked pretty good over there outside of losing to Mike Perry. Jeremy Stephens is very dependent upon elbows and upon calf kicks and a big winging right hand. And as long as Bob Green avoids all of those things, I think that Green should easily win this fight because Green's got an underrated ground game. I've been saying that for a really long time, and he's rattled off 2 in a row. The win over Lance Gibson, it wasn't a split decision. He clearly won. That's aged pretty well considering what Gibson just did to Hooper and knocked out Daniel Zohuber. That was impressive, right? And who's he losing to? Mauricio Rufy? Patty Pimblett? I think both of those guys beat Jeremy Stevens, right? Jim Miller 2 years ago. So Bob Green, he's faster. He's slicker. He's got, kicks to work with, can switch stances. He's very, very elusive. And, of course, if Jeremy Stevens can, beat up the lead leg of Green, slow down the movement, walk him into a right hand or step him with an elbow or something, of course, Jeremy could find a way to get him out of there. But if you're seeing a guy like Clay Collard pick him apart on the feet, and that was 4 years ago, and you're seeing most recently, I know Mason Jones is very good. He's a dog, a BMF, one of the most exciting fighters, I think, in the UFC right now. I just think Bob Green is too polished, man. He's slick. He's fast. His defense, he's very elusive. And still, at almost 40 years of age, the speed has went nowhere for Bob Green. Power on the side of Stevens, even though Green's got some underrated sting. He's got the output. He's got the shot selection, the speed, the defense. I think Bob Green will easily outscore Jeremy Stevens and win this one. I'll say 30-27. And kind of school Jeremy a little bit in this one. But, of course, Stevens always live to get a KO, and whenever he does win, it is usually very much a highlight reel type of finish. Some of the KOs that he's had throughout his career, he's got a nasty uppercut, that violent finish over Josh Emmett some time ago. I mean, it's crazy how fast time has flown, man. The last time that Jeremy Stevens got a win in the UFC. I love watching Jeremy fight, love watching Bob Green fight. I'm going to go with Bob in this one. I think his striking is slick. He's been, again, and how often was Stevens training to grappling? Over in BKFC, not the most technical boxing, right? It's fun to watch, but it's not like great technique or anything. And Bob's been preparing for MMA fights, working on his grappling, all these things. I think Bob is slicker, and he will just outstrike Stevens and get the job done. I think he's just the better overall fighter at this point. Next, we got Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. This is an interesting fight. This is a very interesting fight because there's no doubt in my mind that Sean Brady is just way better on the ground than Buckley. But he's got to get it there first. And we've seen that if Sean Brady is not really able to get the fight to the floor, he can be in some trouble. He can be in some trouble. And I know along this stretch, getting knocked out by Belal Muhammad is not a good look. But again, Belal has the ability to stop the takedowns and keep it on the feet. And his striking is pretty decent. So I get it. But getting knocked out by him, not a great look. Right? Sub Kelvin Gastelum. We just saw Luque easily beat Kelvin Gastelum, right? Beat Gilbert Burns, was able to out-grapple him, out-wrestle him, landed some good shots on the feet, which is, Brady's striking's gotten better, right? Was out-striking Gilbert Burns, which is impressive. Dominated Leon Edwards, which we, picked him to win that fight as well. And listen, submitting Leon Edwards is not an easy thing to do. But Leon, not the most dangerous guy on the feet. And then most recently coming off of a loss to where we picked Morales to win this fight. Too big, too strong, too athletic, great distance management. And Brady was just not able to close the distance. So in this fight, it's very simple. Sean Brady's striking to me is decent. I think it's gotten better, but it's not better than Buckley. And he's not the most dangerous striker either. He needs this fight to the floor by any means necessary. And I have no doubt that if he gets it there, I think he will be able to keep Buckley down because he's got very good jiu-jitsu. He has solid wrestling. He's got a solid gas tank. The problem I have with Sean Brady, he's one of these guys like a Grant Dawson, like a Pat Sabatini, not to compare them. I'm just saying that, with the style where he's a very good grappler, but when he gets hit by a good shot, he just kind of shuts down. He shuts down, his demeanor changes, his body language changes, and I think that there's a good chance that we see that in this fight. And I know both guys have been, having some things to say coming into this. They've been kind of building this thing up, jawing back and forth a little bit. Outside of this loss to Kamaru Usman, Buckley's looked great at 170. I've been saying for a while, him coming down to 170, I was like, he's going to be a dark horse in this weight class, right? Destroyed Vicente Luque. And I know that it kind of looked like Luque just gave up in that fight, so I get it. But dominated Nursultan Ruziboev, was taking him down. Knocked out Wonderboy Thompson, which we predicted, which was, a great performance. Beat the heck out of Colby Covington, which I feel like everybody saw coming. And okay, so he lost to Kamaru Usman. Now people are out here saying that, well, because look what Kamaru Usman did to Buckley. Well, Sean Brady should be the same thing, or should be able to do the same thing. Since when in the world is Sean Brady as good as Kamaru Usman? Since when? Kamaru Usman is arguably the greatest welterweight of all time, one of the greatest MMA fighters ever. Kamaru Usman is a much more dangerous striker than Brady. And I know Usman's striking did not look good in this fight. He ate some good shots from Buckley. And we've seen that Brady, he can't take a clean shot. And I think that if Buckley lands a good shot on him early, Brady is going to melt, man. We've seen that throughout his career, and it's just one of those things. Do you think that Brady will be able to avoid the damage, get the fight to the floor, and we think that Buckley's grappling has not improved enough because Usman dominated him on the ground? Usman is a much better wrestler than Brady. Now, I will say, Sean Brady's jiu-jitsu is clearly better than Kamaru Usman, to where if Buckley gets taken down, he's got to worry about, the ground game of Brady in terms of, the wrestling, his striking, you could say maybe is a little bit cleaner than Usman, still doesn't hit harder than Usman, and I still don't think he's anywhere near the level of Kamaru Usman, but his ground game is very dangerous, and his submission game is far more dangerous than Usman, so it's a different threat, to where if he's able to get down Buckley, he could submit him. And I think that's very possible. I think it's very possible that Brady could take down Buckley and just control him and win a, decision-based, type of fight to where he controls Buckley on the deck and Buckley doesn't have the answers to get up. But I think Joaquin Buckley, he's got almost a 4-inch reach advantage here. He's very explosive. He's the better athlete. He's more explosive. He hits harder. He is the better striker. And I know Brady maybe is a little bit more technical, but Buckley's got that peekaboo style to where he's rolling, bobbing and weaving, stepping under, ripping big hooks to the body, ripping them around the guard. He's got some explosive kicks. I think something's telling me that Joaquin Buckley is going to knock out Sean Brady, man. I'm sorry. I know that Sean Brady's good, and it sounds like I'm kind of, dogging on Brady a little bit, which I don't mean for it to sound like that. I like Brady, and I've been high on him. I just don't like these fighters to me that, they're great grapplers, but when they get tagged with a shot and you just see a complete shift in their body language, I don't like that, man. And I don't feel comfortable picking fighters like that against guys that I know, like Buckley, if you hit him, he's going to be like, come on. Where if you hit Brady, he's like, ooh, I don't know, man. I didn't like that. Where to me, it's just a battle of mindsets. It's a battle of mentalities. And Brady, much better grappler. If this is a grappling match, you don't even have to think. Brady dominates him. But since when is Sean Brady as good as Kamaru Usman? And I know Usman's a little bit older, right? He's got the wobbly knees, eyes beaming, wrestling scheming son of a gun, Kamaru Usman. I get it, but Usman to me is way better than Buckley. I'm sorry. If they even fought right now, I'm picking Usman to knock out Joaquin. If Usman fought Brady now, I'm picking Kamaru Usman to knock out Brady. I just am. And I'm picking him to out-grapple Sean Brady. So maybe that's crazy. I just feel like people are disrespecting Kamaru Usman by saying, well, look what he did to Buckley, so Brady will just do the same thing. I don't think so. Of course, it's a possibility. I think Buckley's going to be prepared, man. I saw him working with Usman a little bit. I think he'll be prepared. He's the much better striker. He's explosive, throws great combinations. He's got solid boxing. I like the uppercuts up the middle. And we saw against Colby Covington, who, in my opinion, better wrestler than Brady, dominated him. And I know that that's maybe not the same Colby, and I get it. Brady's striking's pretty good, and he has gotten better. I just think Buckley is being overlooked in this fight. I think that he has a path to victory here. And I think if he gets in the face of Sean Brady early, he can get him out of there. And I know Michael Morales, Buckley, I think Morales is better. I understand all that. Styles make fights. Buckley's very strong. Used to fight at 185. I know he was maybe a little bit more of a journeyman at the time. We've seen he's durable. His submission defense has been pretty good in the past. I get it. This is maybe the most well-rounded grappler that he's fought in a while, considering the jiu-jitsu threat. I understand all of that. But I think Buckley's explosiveness, his athletic ability, his footwork, I think he can explode into a shot and tag Sean Brady. And we've seen, man, if you're getting, I know that Bilal, Styles make fights. I get it. He can negate the grappling. I understand it. But if we're seeing him put it on you, if we're seeing Morales, just discourage you, and I get Morales is huge, and I understand all of that, but I'm just saying, if Brady gets tagged by a good shot, we see this guy kind of go away, man. We see him go away. I think Buckley's a good striker. His boxing is solid. I don't know that Buckley's necessarily an elite fighter, but I think Brady's ground game is elite, but overall as a fighter, I'm not quite sure in that category at this point. I know he's only lost to some of the best. I understand all that, but I think Joaquin Buckley, you put him in there with Leon Edwards, I think he could beat Leon. I know it'd be kind of tough, but I think he could beat him. I think he could beat Gilbert Burns. I think he would stop Gilbert Burns. I think he would beat Kelvin Gastelum. So that's the way I kind of look at it. Brady's resume is solid, but I don't know. I'm not saying Sean Brady's overrated, but I just feel like people are going based off of Kamaru Usman. Like, Usman's one of the best, man. One of the absolute best. All that he's accomplished, so I just feel like that's a little bit crazy. And I'm being a little defensive, man, seeing how people are kind of talking about this fight, saying that, well, Usman did this, so Brady can do that. Since when? Since when, man? So maybe I'll be wrong, but I think Brady, clear path to victory, get the fight to the floor. If not, Buckley tunes him up, finds a way to get him out of there. I think he puts it on him right away, and just explosive, gets him out of there. Good heavyweight fight here. Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Pretty simple here. Waldo, we've seen his takedowns have actually improved. We've seen his ground game, right? He was a baseball player. He's got that fastball of a right hand. We've seen he's got a really good calf kick as well. He moves well. He's got really good speed for a heavyweight. His footwork, maybe not the best. Kind of predictable on the feet, banks on the right hand. Does fire a pretty good jab as well. Good calf kick. But outside of that, he's very, very basic, which is okay at heavyweight because really all you need is a little bit of footwork, a little bit of speed, and a little bit of power, and you can go a long way at heavyweight. And we've seen right against Rebellis to Spain, who, brother, his grappling is zero. He dominated him on the ground. So outside of that, we've seen him mix in some grappling here and there, but really it's about the striking. And this was a close fight against Sergey Spivak. I thought that this could have went either way, but it was still a good performance either way. Right? Lost to Sergey Pavlovich. I picked Sergey in this fight. And again, Sergey's very, very dangerous. Styles make fights. Right? Knocked out Ante D'Elia after getting eye poked. That was badass, man. Knocked out, the Blob, who's been on the downfall. It's been sad to see, right? Got him out of there. Derek Lewis, as we know, if it's not going his way, just kind of crumbles. And Waldo got him out of there. And we all thought basically that Waldo was going to win the fight outside of a Hail Mary from Derek Lewis. If Waldo can get into boxing range and he can utilize his speed, utilize that calf kick, maybe mix in some takedowns, control Volkov, keep him on the deck, I think that Waldo can get the job done. But I don't know that he has any success with the grappling. I don't even know if he looks to grapple in this fight. I think he fights behind the boxing, fights behind the jab, the low kick, and tries to set up the right hand. The issue I have with that is, sure, that might be able to get it done. But I feel like you got to be really that dude in order to get through Alexander Volkov. Because what we've seen from Volkov, now I get it, Romanov not in the UFC anymore, Tuivasa, he's just completely washed at this point. Sergey Pavlovich, this is an unbelievable performance. Volkov beat the crap out of Pavlovich, man. Absolutely dominated him with switching stances, ripping shots to the body, picking him apart with the hands, the kicks, put on just a clinic, man. It was very, very impressive. I thought he beat Cyril Gane. Then most recently, I picked him to beat Almeida. I mean, we've been picking him in a lot of these fights, man. I can't remember the last time I picked against Volkov. I don't remember. But I've been picking him in a lot of these fights. One of my favorite heavyweights ever. Right? And I thought he won this fight against Almeida because Almeida did nothing. Just laid on him, and Volkov was being active off of his back and landed some shots on the feet here and there. Volkov's got a couple-inch reach advantage. He's a skyscraper. His overall striking as an overall arsenal, deeper tool bag than Acosta. But Waldo, to me, faster hands. He's got some power in his hands. I think Volkov, to me, is just a better overall fighter. I think he's the better grappler, better submission skills. He's got the front kicks, which I think are going to be a big weapon, punishing the midsection of Waldo, leg kicks from range, switching stances, kicks to the body, kicks upstairs, fight behind the long boxing combos. This would be a massive win if Waldo can get it done, man. It would be a massive win, but I got to side with Drago in this one, man. I think that his overall game is really, really good. He's gotten better throughout his career, and I know he's 37, right, where he kind of had these ups and downs earlier in his career, but he's one of these guys who really kind of came into his own as he's gotten older. He's rounded out his game better. His ground game's gotten so much better. His jiu-jitsu's really good. His submission skills, his front kicks up the middle, his kicking game. He's just a very well-rounded overall fighter. I think he's the better overall fighter than Waldo. It's just the fact that Waldo, I like Waldo a lot, man. He's fast. He's explosive. He's got power in his hand. He's got an excellent jab, good right hand. That fastball of a right hand is very, very dangerous. And I could see that whistling around the guard of Volkov and getting him up out of there. But if you're having these close fights with guys like Sergey Spivak, I know Spivak's good and he's looked pretty good, and some of these other guys, I just think Volkov is a completely different level than a lot of these guys. And I know Derek Lewis knocked out Volkov back on, I think it was the Khabib-McGregor card. I get it, but Volkov was controlling the fight. And it's one of those things where I feel like Waldo's just got to land a right hand and find a way to get to him, because I think Volkov can pick him apart, kind of like what he did in the Sergey Pavlovich fight. I get it. Styles make fights. Waldo a little bit faster than Sergey. Sergey more dangerous. But I think Volkov, I think he can outstrike him and get it done. I'll say 29-28. I think the kicks are going to be a big weapon in this fight. Just don't box with Waldo. Mix in the kicks, attack the lead leg, take away the base of Acosta, knees in close, punish him in the clinch. I think we'll see Volkov turn this into a complete MMA fight and just outsmart Waldo and outgrit him and get the job done and pick him apart from literally every range. Co-main event, we have Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira. This is one I've went back and forth on, because I think this is, when we talk about a true 50-50 fight, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think if Tatsuro Taira gets the fight into his world, Joshua Van's in a ton of trouble, because I was hoping that we were going to see a fight here. Now, this wasn't a fight, obviously. Pantoja fell down, went to post, injures the arm. So really, this is this isn't really a win for Van. It's a win. I mean, it's not his fault. The injury happened. Now he's the champion, but it's not a legit win to become the champion. We were going to find out a lot, I thought, about Joshua Van's ground game in that fight because I picked Pantoja to get it done because I think Pantoja is not only the most dangerous and best flyweight of all time, but he's just complete, man. He's got power. He's chaotic. He's got an elite ground game, and we've seen Pantoja take out some of the best flyweights of all time on a consistent basis. And I thought that he had the skills to be able to take out Joshua Van because he has the power and all these kinds of things, and he's got the veteran experience. And this is a little bit of a similar kind of fight in a way to where Taira doesn't have the veteran championship experience, but Taira's ground game is elite, man. I think he's the second best grappler from what I've seen, behind Pantoja. And what's so dangerous about Taira is not only is he a very high-level grappler, his control is a very, very high level and elite. His wrestling is fantastic. His sweeps, his trips, his takedowns are just incredible. And his jiu-jitsu is, it's high level. And he's dangerous at all times on the deck, and his striking's gotten a lot better to where he's got some sting in his shots. And he's very patient on the ground. And he's got some nasty ground and pound too. So Tatsuro Taira has so many ways to beat you. And I think if he gets the fight into his world and he gets to Joshua Van's back, Van's going to be in some trouble to where I can see Taira getting him up out of there with a submission. And if Van is able to defend and is able to stop the takedowns and keep the fight on the feet, I think Joshua Van is way better than Taira. And I know that Taira has gotten better on the feet, but I think that Joshua Van has a clear advantage. I think Joshua Van is one of the best boxers in the UFC. His combinations are nasty, rips to the body very well, fights behind the jab, changes his levels, throws good uppercuts. He's got a good little calf kick that he mixes in as well. And Joshua Van, throughout his career, at 24 years of age, we have just seen this dude get better and better and better, as we have seen from Taira. But this Cody Djorden fight, a guy that's a solid grappler, an underrated grappler that's got some striking. We saw Joshua Van put it on him. We saw in the Ray Cerulia fight, a fight that I said was going to pay off for Van in the long run. People were like, why did this fight get booked? A guy that has a good wrestling game that is literally going to do nothing other than try to take Van down for 15 minutes. And that's what happened. Van defended well, got back to the feet, tagged him up on the feet, knocked out Bruno Silva. Crazy all-out war, which was one of the fights of the year against Brandon Royval. Dang near knocked him out late in the fight. Right? And then this against Pantoja. I have no doubt in my mind that if Joshua Van has an answer for the grappling and he can address it, he is going to bang up Tatsuro Taira on the feet, outbox him, pick him apart, and kind of make him look silly. I think that that's possible. But it does worry me because what we've seen from Taira, I've been very high on him as well. What he did to Perez, what he's able to do to Hernandez, lost to Royval. This was not a split decision. I thought Royval clearly won. Had success early, started to slow down. Royval was able to pick him apart. I think Van is a better striker than Royval. I know styles make fights. We saw that. That's why he beat him. Hyun-Sung Park, way too big of a step up in competition, but it wasn't Taira's fault. I think it was a last-minute fill-in. They switched some things around to make it happen. This win over Brandon Moreno, dominant, very, very impressive. But we also saw Lonnie Kavanaugh just beat the brakes off of Moreno too as well. So, I don't know, man. I'm stalling because I don't know. I don't know. If Taira gets the fight into his world, I feel like Van could be in some trouble because Taira's got the submission game. His control is very good. I got some questions about the gas tank of Taira, though. I do. We saw him slow down in the Royval fight. He worked so hard to get the submission, which makes him very entertaining. His ground and pound is elite. His submission skills are elite. His striking has gotten better. His ground and pound. Everything about Taira is elite, man. It really is. But I think Joshua Van's takedown defense is underrated. If he doesn't get submitted, I don't think Taira just is going to control him for 25. I think he'll find ways to get back to the feet. And I think on the feet, while Taira might land some shots, and I know that Van got knocked out by Charles Johnson, but that turns out it's the best base for the flyweight division. Get knocked out by Charles Johnson, and you bounce back and become a champ. Or you're Lonnie Kavanaugh and get the biggest win of your career. I'm going to go Josh Van. I'm going to go Josh Van to pull off the upset here. That was my initial lean. I kind of was playing with the idea of picking Taira. I think that this is a 50-50 fight. It's going to come down to, I feel like no one really knows what's going to happen. Like in terms of, like we know how the possibilities, it's just a matter of which one you actually think is going to happen. And I don't think you can say with true certainty that you know which one is going to happen. Because we've seen Van, yes, get taken down, but we've seen his takedown defense look really good. We saw his grappling, his own offensive grappling look good against Edgar Chairez, where he took that fight on short notice and out-grappled him, which is impressive. So Taira, the better grappler, more complete grappler. The striking has gotten better. He's got some sting. I think he can strike a little bit with Van early, but we've seen Taira start to slow down. We see Van build as the fights play out. I know that the fight was supposed to happen at 327. It got moved, maybe an injury or something. I'm not exactly sure what happened there because I saw him cornering, I think it was Dakota Hope on that Apex card when they announced the news, which was kind of interesting. It didn't seem like anything was wrong, so I'm not sure what's going on there as to why it got moved, what exactly happened in terms of the injury. So something to, I guess, note. But I feel like a lot of people are kind of crapping on Van because we're kind of like defending Pantoja because of the way that it went down and kind of how Van has been carrying himself since. But it's not his fault, man. You win the belt, you change your life. You know, you're going to be happy. I think people are kind of letting their emotions get in the way of this fight. So I'm going to say Joshua Van gets it done. I think it can go either way. Taira's ground game's that good, but I think Joshua Van stuffs the takedowns. He will get taken down, and I think he'll be in some bad positions. He'll survive, get back to the feet. Taira will start to slow down in the mid to later rounds. Van will start to put it on him. Maybe could find even a late TKO stoppage. It'll either be Taira's submission early, or it'll be Van TKO later rounds, or Taira controls him, wins a decision, or Van builds as the fight goes, outstrikes him, picks him apart, and wins a decision. I'm going to say Joshua Van wins 3-2 over Tatsuro Taira and keeps the belt, and then we get Van versus Pantoja next, and we finally get to have some clarity there. So I'm going Joshua Van. I think he's one of the best boxers. I think the people are kind of sleeping on him in a way in this fight. I think Taira's legit. I completely understand that, but Van's boxing is really good. I think we'll have some answers here. Last but not least, we have arrived at the main event of the evening, and if you guys are enjoying this video, if you could please do me a favor, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and also hype the video. I would greatly appreciate it. We got Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has talked a lot, man. He's talked a lot about Khamzat. He's had a lot of crazy things to say, a lot of wild things to say. I don't think it rattles Khamzat whatsoever. I think that people are like, well, is Khamzat going to fight mad? And I don't think so at all. I think Khamzat, yeah, Sean Strickland's saying a lot of crazy stuff, but in a way, I think Khamzat, he understands that guys that talk, guys that say a lot, the guys that market themselves, Strickland understands that the crazier things that I say, the more headlines I get, and the UFC is going to put me in better positions in bigger fights. And I think Khamzat understands that to a degree. I don't think he likes a lot of the things that Sean is saying, obviously, but I think that Khamzat's not going to fight emotional. I think Khamzat understands Sean has kind of talked himself into this position. And there is that part of me that does wonder, right? We've heard the rumors and we've heard from Strickland and the Schmo and all this and that Khamzat was able to submit him. Now, granted, is that positional grappling? I got a lot of questions about that. But my whole thing is, why is Sean Strickland so confident about this fight? I know that they've trained together and Khamzat was a welterweight at the time, but maybe it is Strickland just looking for a payday, but I don't think so, man. Risking humiliation for a payday? I don't think so. I think Sean Strickland truly believes that he's the kryptonite matchup here. And there is that part of me that does believe that if Sean Strickland has an answer for the takedowns, man, is this going to get interesting. It's going to get real interesting because as good of a offensive striker as I think Khamzat is, especially early, and as underrated as he is on the feet, his striking from what we've seen thus far is really only dangerous early in the fight. We saw against Burns, it was dangerous late, and I understand that. But really where his defense is on point, his movement, his pressure, it's at its best early in the fight. To where as the fight starts to play out, if it's on the feet, Sean Strickland has the advantage, man. And I think he has the straight-up overall striking advantage. I feel like that's pretty fair to say. Even though Khamzat does have maybe more one-shot knockout power and is more explosive than Strickland, at least early with the striking, Sean's the better fighter. On the feet, not the better overall fighter. The better striker, the better fighter when it comes to the striking, I'm saying. And I think Sean Strickland has the best jab in the UFC. The thing's a piston. I'm messing up, man. I'm getting congested. Sean Strickland's got a great right hand, good front kicks up the middle. This performance against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez was fantastic. And Fluffy had zero success grappling in that fight. Sean Strickland, even when Fluffy tried, Strickland just shucked him off, made it look easy. Was able to batter him to the midsection. We've seen throughout Strickland's career, the only guys that have really knocked him out was, Zaleski dos Santos, or whoever back in the day at welterweight got clipped by a spinning wheel kick. Okay, so it happened. Got knocked out by Poatan, the best striker probably ever, the most dangerous of all time. Walked down Adesanya, that was very impressive. Got it done, outscored him. That was very impressive, shut him down. I thought he beat DDP in that fight. Look how well that's aged over Paulo Costa. This fight got dominated by DDP, said he was hurt in that fight. I don't know. And it looked impressive against Fluffy. There is that part of me that does think that Sean Strickland could possibly have some answers in this fight. Do I think he has the full, code here, the full cheat code, the full, playbook? I don't think so. I think he's got part of the playbook to where I do believe that if he avoids getting finished early by Khamzat, because we know that Khamzat's gas tank is good. Like, it's better than what a lot of people want to give it credit for. And we saw that in the DDP fight. He went a full 25 minutes. His gas tank looked pretty good. But one of the problems in that fight was DDP didn't make Khamzat work. He didn't try to get back to his feet. He didn't try to scramble. He didn't try to do any of those things because it feels like a lot of these guys come into this fight with Khamzat more so to try to survive. They know they're going to get taken down, and they're like, oh, I don't want to scramble and get my back to where I get submitted, because Khamzat is a master when he gets your back. A leg ride, get right to the back and find the rear naked choke, create a scramble, and find a way to get to that Darce. He's a nasty submission ace, man. And Khamzat I think he's the best wrestler we've ever seen in the UFC. And not only that, I think he's the best grappler we've seen in the UFC. He's the most athletic. He's very explosive. And he combines the wrestling with the jiu-jitsu, the judo, the sweeps. He is the full grappling package. And like I said, his striking is underrated, especially early. He's got dynamite in his hands, man. He's got some good kicks as well. And we've seen the sparring, him with Brendan Allen, him with Khalil Roundtree. I don't get too into the sparring and all that kind of stuff, but I like a lot of the things that I've seen from both guys. I think both guys are incredible fighters. I think Strickland's striking is really good. I've said that for a long time. People get so caught up into what Sean's saying and, oh, he's an idiot. Sean Strickland's a smart fighter. He's a smart fighter. His takedown defense is pretty good. We saw Kamaru Usman dominate him at 170. We haven't really seen him against an elite-level grappler at 185. I know Fluffy has a good ground game, but, I mean, come on, man. Like, people are actually thinking that Fluffy has the same ground game as Chimaev. Like, that's nuts. People that think that Fluffy is, like, on some sort of level like Khamzat is pretty nuts. So, I don't know, man. I feel like this is one of those things where if Khamzat wins by a finish, I think it's going to be early. I think that he could land some sort of crazy shot, feign a level change, ice Sean Strickland with a right hand down the pipe. That'd be nuts if that happened, because we've seen that you can land on Strickland because he plays the defense, kind of fights behind that Philly shell, to where if you could put him on the back foot, land a shot, that's definitely a possibility. Not the most likely, but definitely possible, right? Sean Strickland checks leg kicks very well, so I don't think Khamzat will have success with the leg kicks. Khamzat's got pretty good hands, but I just don't. Striking with Sean Strickland for long periods of times is not going to favor Khamzat, especially early on. Khamzat, I think, can do it, but as the fight plays out, Strickland will take over with the striking if that's where it goes. So to me, if Khamzat's going to get a finish, it's early. It's finding a way to knock him out or finding a way to submit him. And Sean Strickland in his MMA career has not been submitted. Now, if there's anyone to do it, it would be Khamzat. Now, does he do it? Possible. I don't think it happens. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a fight that I think is going to get very interesting if Khamzat doesn't run him over. Khamzat runs him over, it's just a demolition, and we're like, yeah, Khamzat's that good. But something is, maybe I'm buying into a little bit of kind of the hype and reading into it too much, but something is telling me that Strickland is going to have some sort of answers here. Sean Strickland, yes, DDP is, big and strong, and yeah, he beat Strickland, but styles make fights. I think that Strickland is a better overall defensive grappler by far than DDP. I've always thought that. Offensively, maybe DDP's better. I know DDP took Strickland down. DDP's got a solid submission game, and Strickland got right back up. Again, DDP, not the level of grappler as Khamzat. We get it. Styles make fights. I'm going to go Khamzat, but I'm going to say he gets it done by a decision. And like I said, he very well may just run over Sean early in the fight. And if it happens, there it goes. And that's just who Khamzat is. And listen, man, you guys know Khamzat's my guy. He's my favorite fighter in the UFC. I love watching him fight. He's super entertaining. I like his personality. He gets the marketing game, all these different things. And I love the eye, I hope he does that to I'd be laughing if Khamzat did that to me in there, man. So I can't wait for the build up, all this kind of stuff. I think it's going to be one of those fights where if Khamzat doesn't wreck him early, man, I don't think that Khamzat will fade with the gas tank. Like, I think his gas tank is underrated. But I think it's one of those things where Strickland understands that I have to take those risks to where, yeah, I might get submitted, but I have to make this guy work. I can't just flop on the deck like a fish like DDP and let him control me, because if he does, then I don't make him work, and he can do the same thing for 25 minutes. So I think that Khamzat will dominate early. The middle rounds, we'll see Strickland start to fend off some of these takedowns, get back to the feet, start to land some jabs, some front kicks, some jabs and teeps, start to land a right hand. Maybe things will get dicey later. I'm leaning towards maybe Khamzat 50-45, or maybe Strickland takes a round or two in there, man. I'm serious. Like, I'm like really rating Sean Strickland in this fight. Maybe that's going to look stupid, and maybe just Khamzat just really just does dominate him, and I think Khamzat is clearly the better grappler. But I think on the feet, as dangerous as Khamzat is early, I think Strickland's the much better striker. He is. His defense is really good. He's hard to hit clean. The jab is money. Khamzat, yeah, he moves his head a little bit, but he moves back in a straight line. He's easy to kind of hit. And we've seen, you know, on the feet, guys can have success. Even DDP in those small moments was having success. Burns was having success. Usman was having success. And Usman's got a good jab, but Strickland's got the best jab in the sport. And he's a real 185er, man. And I think that he can land the jab on Khamzat, bust his face up a little bit as the fight plays out. So I think it's going to be very important for Khamzat to not burn himself out early, because if he doesn't get that finish against Strickland, we have seen Sean will build as the fight goes, man. Now, having said that, we've also not seen Sean have to go a hard grappling MMA fight over the course of 25 minutes. So as good as Sean's gas tank is, a lot of that is based off of having these coasting striking battles, to where if you make him work with the grappling, I do think Sean will be a lot more fatigued than what we normally see from him in this fight. So for me, the outcomes are Khamzat finishes him early, or Khamzat will control him, will win minutes, and find a way to get him down in the later rounds. We'll find a way to land some shots. We'll threaten with the back takes. And if Sean is too hesitant and it does not explode, does not scramble, does not try to create those opportunities, he will just easily lose this fight. But I don't think Strickland's going to do that. I think he's going to come in here. He's going to risk it. He's going to try to scramble. He's going to try to work up to his feet. And we've seen his submission defense is very good. And then Sean Strickland over at Extreme Couture, there's some good fighters that come through that gym, man. So I feel like he's gotten some good grappling work in. And, yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe like I said, I'm reading into it too much. But I think Strickland better on the feet overall, especially as the fight goes early. Khamzat striking is good, but his striking does get labored, and he becomes a lot more hittable. We've seen that. Even though he's got power in his hands, he's explosive. We've seen the striking tend to fade. And the grappling, he's got good control. But if he can't control Strickland for all 25 minutes and he can't find that early finish, I think things are going to get very interesting, and I think that that's what happens, to where we're going to get some Strickland going, oh, come on, man, here's the thing, you guys, you know, and later in the fight, and he's going to kind of have, you know, a couple moments maybe late, but I think Khamzat will pretty clearly win the fight, but Sean will have a couple moments later on in the fight. I don't think Khamzat will really fade. I just think it'll be that we get more moments on the feet to where Sean can have some of those moments. I just think Khamzat's gas tank is a little bit underrated in a sense. We saw him go, 25 against DDP. DDP didn't really make him work. Styles make fights. I think Strickland can have some sort of answers in this matchup. I'm not counting out Strickland, man. I definitely favor Khamzat, but I respect Strickland's game. I don't like a lot of the things that Strickland says, but at the end of the day, like, the dude's a great fighter, man. So, some things with Strickland, I'm like, all right. But some other things, I'm like, hey, man, come on. That's how I kind of would describe my feelings towards Strickland. But all that aside, when it comes to the fighter, Strickland's a dang good fighter. Striking's good. I like watching his striking. It's creative. It's very effective. His defense is good. I think he's the better striker. Khamzat the better grappler. We'll see how the styles go. I think Khamzat wins. I'll say 4-1. I'll go with that in this fight. I just think Khamzat's grappling is on another level compared to everybody else. And I've said before, I think Khamzat retires undefeated. I think Khamzat is he's a phenom, man. He's a freak. His ground game's insane. And I think he's going to be motivated coming into this fight. And we'll have these fun press conference moments. I'm sure we'll have them bumping into each other, the security separating them at the beginning of the fight. But these guys, at the end of the day, I know they don't like each other, but they also understand how to market themselves and get places in the UFC. So, I don't think Khamzat's going to be too rattled by it. I think he'll fight smart, and maybe gets him out of there early, but I'll say decision in this fight. So I think this is a great matchup. Interesting to see how this one plays out.